So clearly, thank you, Chris, we saw some pretty wild moments of 2014 this summer, didn't we? Well, let's turn it over to Mike. He has made his way down to the shoreline of Lake Erie at beautiful Port Colborne to take a look at what it's like down there. Mike? Thank you, Mike. It is that time of year where we need to start talking about lake effect. And if it's warm enough for it to be showers or perhaps some lake effect snow. It won't be long before we're talking about lake effect snow, but for the time being, it is in the form of showers. So the rainfall forecast, again, locally as high as, say, 20 millimeters of rain. There's also the potential for water spouts over the Great Lakes, so we need to be mindful of that. And then looking at the precipitation that we're expecting, just some scattered precipitation for the time being. And then this trough comes through, and that results in perhaps a little bit more in terms of light rain, more persistent rain throughout the GTA and then the Ottawa Valley and Toronto and Montreal, and then we get a bit of a break, and then another one comes in. So essentially what's happening here is we've got this low pressure system way up into northern Ontario, and it's like a pinwheel. So they're just coming through these little areas of disturbed weather, and then by the end of the week, yeah, we've got another one that just skirts by to our south. Thank you so much for that, Jacqueline. We always love those educational segments from you for sure. We're going to take a look at, of course, at our weather conditions, hopefully educate you on what we're dealing with in terms of weather this week. But before we do that, let's check in with our street reporter, Kevin. He's in Stoney Creek. Thank you, Kevin. And the reason is because we have essentially really what is like a pinwheel of weather going on. It's all anchored from our low in northern Ontario. Evening and overnight, they may come back again, the next pinwheel, right? So looking at our rainfall forecast, how much would we expect on the high end, 20 million? So here's one of the pinwheels. See this red line? That's one of them coming through with the rain showers. It moves into the Ottawa Valley and Montreal. A bit of a break, and then the next one comes in. And that's really the pattern that we're going to be seeing for the most part, at least for the beginning part of this week. By the time we get to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it does appear. Well, we were bang on with our forecast this past weekend, and the temperatures were sitting about the mid-teens, which is what we were expecting. It did not feel anything close to what we had the weekend previous, where we were hanging on to summer-like weather. But to be looking actually at temperatures sitting at about those mid-teens for today as well. Let's turn it over to Mike now. Mike Arsenault, he's out on the ground. Actually, he's more at the lake shore really than anything. Let's check in with him. Thanks, Mike. And the only other thing I really want to mention is that we have the potential of seeing some water spouts. I'll show you the lakes in question in a moment. Let's take a look at our short-term forecast. And in terms of our rain, how much would we expect to see? At the high end, 20, generally 10 millimeters of rain. And it's really these areas of disturbance that are coming through the Great Lakes region and subsequently the GTA from time to time over the next many days, in fact. In terms of the potential for water spouts, yeah, south side of Lake Huron as well as Lake Erie for the most part, and then possibly on Lake Ontario too. But you see these red dashed lines? Those are the areas of disturbed weather coming through. Ottawa and Montreal, rain showers with that. If we see any of these rain showers developing, the most we would expect to draw out of those are say 5 to 10 millimeters of rain, and then we get breaks in between, and then it's back and forth. So it's one of those types of scenarios, and the anchor low is way up into the north of Ontario. So good point. Thanks so much, Kasia. We are taking a look, of course, at our weather conditions. And this past weekend, despite the temperature, if it's mid-teens, we'll consider that to be summer. Actually, considering the summer we've just come off of, some might consider that. Let's turn it over to Kevin and see what it's like where he is right now. Kevin? We sure are. And we would expect to see between 10 and 20 millimeters of rain showers worth coming through. But we do get some breaks from it because it's pinwheeling around our region for this week, in fact. Waterspout forecast outside Lake Huron and mostly Lake Erie, although possibly on Lake Ontario too. And it's just because of the difference in temperature aloft and at the surface of the water. The troughs come through. You can see the rain showers approaching Ottawa and Montreal, having come through the GTA already. And then this is the next one that's coming through late day tomorrow and into Wednesday. And we can see that our anchor low is still over northern Ontario, though not represented on these icons, but you can see that the probabilities of precipitation are still sitting at 30%, 20%. So that's a little bit too low for us to see them show up on the icons, but it's still there for us.
Weather Network.
Let me set the pattern for you. We have an anchor low over northern Ontario, and what we're getting are these pinwheels, these areas of disturbed weather that are spinning around it and moving through southern Ontario. So at times we get rain showers like we had in Waterloo this past Saturday. So this is all to say that this pattern is sticking with us pretty much all week. Let's turn it over to Mike and see what he's up to near Lake Erie. I like that, Mike. It's a strategic guest placement to help you out there, right? 10 to 20 millimeters of rain with our rain showers coming in, and that will result in some rain for Ottawa and Montreal. So if you're going there on business, the rain will follow you. Water spout forecast possibly today through this evening, mostly Lake Erie, but possibility on Lake Ontario and the south side of Lake Huron as well. And then we have, again, these little rain showers that are coming through, then a break, and then another one swings through. And that's going to probably be the last one that we see, at least from the anchor low that's over northern Ontario. Right here, that's coming through, and that may skirt by maybe the Niagara region. We'll have to watch to see if the models progress it a little bit further north as we go on with this week. But at this point, the icons are not showing anything. I would just be on to give you an idea of what we're expecting to see happen. But in terms of where we are right now, Chris, with our weather, why are you smiling so much?
It sounds like it. To the weekend and beyond.
And beyond. Well, let's go into here.
It's Thanksgiving light year, a new toy.
That's right.
Let's take a look at these cloud tops right now.
Well, you know what? I love that spin around this low pressure system. This is the one that brought all that snow to northern Manitoba. 15 to 30 centimeters of snow this past weekend. Nice spin of low pressure there.
And more to come still.
Yeah,
wow.
And more to come in Saskatchewan, where we could see between another 10 to 20 centimeters. So winter's in full effect in the north.
And we have the warning in place for that as well. Oh, you know what else we have, which is also very winter-like? Blizzard warnings. Old Crow, we were looking at this. So these are very strong winds and prolonged periods of snow. So it's on its way. And as we know, water spouts are non-lethal tornadoes until, of course, they come on land.
Yes.
And because they normally just spin off and they have marine interests, and that's going to be through Lake Erie and areas of southern Lake Huron. Also, some very strong wind as well, which will only enhance the rainfall totals along those coasts as well.
We also have some very cold temperatures in eastern Canada, so the frost.
At least
a
week now, for sure. And this is, again, for tonight and into tomorrow. So this is just, and frost advisories, once we get deeper into the fall and we get closer to winter, these will start to fall away, if you will, and then we start getting into the snow advisories.
Okay, let's talk some international news now.
There'll be a midweek storm in British Columbia, which is interesting enough. And then there's another one that's going to be taking its place. So we'll move back into the Canadian picture now.
Okay, so let's take a look quickly at what we're talking about in terms of our current systems. So we have a jet stream flow that's bringing these systems into the coast of BC. And that's interesting because the remnants of the typhoon from Japan are going to be making their way into the BC coast by the time we get to the end of this week. So we're going to see some wet weather there.
We're looking at unsettled weather still in eastern Canada, and as it moves out, northwest flow moves in, cooler temperatures.
So that was a much chillier weekend than the weekend prior, wasn't it, where temperatures were in the 20s. This past weekend, we saw the values sitting at about the mid-teens. So this is a look at Saturday and then Sunday's temperatures for select, all because of this little trough, this little dashed red line, which looks so innocent here, but it's bringing in some showers certainly across southern Ontario, and it's almost like a pinwheel effect as it moves through. We were down by Port Colborne on Lake Erie. Still some, for the most part, southwesterly winds predominant across the area, and these little troughs are coming through. There's the potential today of seeing some water spouts on the lower lakes, especially maybe the south side of Lake Huron, and with an explanation now of what a water spout is versus a tornado, here's Jacqueline. Thanks for that explanation, Jacqueline. We're going to take a look at our 7-day forecast now across Toronto. Well, I mean, in terms of temperatures, we're sitting pretty much in the teens. You may see in Orangeville a little scattered shower here coming through on Wednesday, and it's all because of those pinwheels that are coming through. More details on your long-range forecast with Doug and Chris coming up. Now we're in that window, right? We're in the wheelhouse of Thanksgiving, so we're going to talk about the sneak peek on that too. Let's take a look at where we stand right now with regard to our weather. And I love the spin of low pressure you can so clearly see with the cloud tops here, Chris. It's bringing some winter weather up in northern Canada.
This is where all of the heavy snow is. This is where we still have the 10 to 20 centimeters through Collins Bay, down through La Ronge. We also have 5 to 10 into northwest Ontario. That's all part of where why we still have a snowfall warning in place in northern Manitoba, northern Ontario.
Yeah, so snowfall warnings here, and then we also have some blizzard warnings, yes, indeed, for northern Canada. So we're at that point now where we're going to start to see this winter weather likely shifting a little bit further south.
The warm and the cold.
Yeah, we've got that weather set up where we could possibly see those. Also want to mention that's partly because we have such a difference in temperature aloft than at the surface. And speaking of cooler air, we've got that in place still across the Maritimes, so the frost advisories are still in place.
Start on our Thanksgiving. As far as Thanksgiving Monday goes, look at the temperatures. This is
milder, more seasonal values expected for eastern Canada, so we'll be watching forward to that too, and your local forecast is coming up.